case for gender equity is an interesting one in our context. So in fact it wrote itself. We didn't really have to think too much about what were the reasons why we'd want to be more involved in gender equity. In fact, we thought of what are the negative cases? Is there a reason why we wouldn't do this? And of course we couldn't come up with anything. It made sense totally for the organisation, whether in recruiting and retention or culture generation, or actually just trying to live up to our ideals about making Western Australia a better place. So it was a very, very easy business case for us. The top 3 actions. Well, firstly, having a plan, having a program. In our case, we've put a 10-year program in place with 3 distinct time periods, so 0 to 2 years, 2 to 5 years, and 5 to 10 years. And the idea is that we have some actions that we can do immediately, we have some medium-term actions, and we have some long-term outcomes. And when I think about sort of the overall nature of, for example, the gender pay gap, that's more a long-term outcome because it requires structural change. Whereas shorter-term goals might be things like putting in place a domestic violence policy, or in our case, most recently, we've put in place a policy for mothers who might have suffered a miscarriage. And these are things that we've been able to do very quickly and roll them out to our people. So the most important part for us is about having that program. The second sort of piece that's been important for us is have somebody responsible for the program. And so we've allocated a senior manager, and her whole responsibility is making sure that this program is brought to life and is rolled out across the organisation. And the third big thing for us is making sure that this isn't just a senior leadership initiative, it's an initiative for leaders across the organisation, whether you're in your first leadership position or in my case as the Group CEO. So of course we have a range of other things we've done, including things like listening tours. Now this sounds like quite a strange initiative, but it's our senior leaders going and listening to our more junior staff across the organisation about their personal experiences. And really it's a tour, a listening tour to understand. So I go to these tours and I listen to our leaders and I don't interrupt. I might ask clarifying questions, but it's all about actually understanding their experience and hearing from our leaders firsthand. We've also done things like introducing pay reviews. So we have a twice annual gender balancing pay review where we go and ensure that if we're recruiting new people or promoting people within the organisation, or even just doing general pay reviews, that we are taking a gender lens when we look at the pay structures of the organisation. We also have done small courses like Women in Super, which is a course to really recognise that with superannuation you need to get into it early and make regular investments. And as we all know, with people leaving the workforce, family commitments and then rejoining, there are significant superannuation differences. And so we're helping to educate people and really get out and tell that education story. And finally, we have a great council, a gender council that we have that has leaders from across the organisation to really get together and workshop some of the initiatives and ideas that we want to promote. Good ideas don't just come from the senior folk, they come from across the organisation, and that advisory group is designed really, that council is designed to really harvest those ideas and then promote the ones that are really going to make a difference for the organisation. And of course we've also updated our leave policies. And this is to really reflect the change in our workforce composition, that flexible leave, flexible working arrangements are really, really important for both men and women. And this is about making sure that we can be an organisation that is most adaptable to individuals' personal circumstances. This isn't talking about it, this is actually making a change to the policies and rolling those out. Okay, actions with the least impact. I'd like to say that none have had a low impact. I'm sure out of that list there would be some things which perhaps haven't fired as heavily as others. One of the challenges for us has been to describe the WA data, because often when people think gender pay gap, they think, oh, that means a man and a woman in the same job are not getting equal pay, and that's not the case at all. Obviously, we have a policy of making sure equal role is equal pay. But having to explain the WA data to get people up to a base level of understanding has been an interesting thing I didn't think we'd have to face, but we've had to face it. So the game-changing action has been about making it a priority. And as I mentioned before, a priority for every leader in the organisation, not just me, not just the executive team, but in fact every leader, and getting out and talking about it and explaining it and highlighting things like International Women's Day this year was International Women's Week. We made a whole series of initiatives to actually get the issues that are important out into the organisational domain and get people talking about them. So since we started on this journey, and since we appointed somebody to be the sort of the driver of it across the organisation, one of the things that I've been most impressed with is a leadership development program we have for our female leaders called Empower. And one of the things we discovered at the RAC, and I'm sure this is the same at other organisations, we have some outstanding young leaders who have no formal qualifications. They didn't get the opportunity to go to university, they haven't had opportunities for other leadership development. So we've designed a bespoke program for our female leaders, and it takes them on a journey, everything from how to have difficult conversations, through to presentation skills, through to how to be a mentee and also a mentor. And that program has delivered some outstanding graduates from that program internally, and ones that I hope to see have very fulfilling careers here at the RAC. So my key learnings, it's funny, I was surprised when gender equity first sort of became a thing for me to think about, because I'd always assumed that my female colleagues in my career had had the same opportunities that I'd had. I assume it's a little naive in having an approach like that. So I was a little horrified as I became more senior to see some of the entrenched biases, whether it's in organisational culture or policies and procedures, that actually potentially hold some people from progressing in their career. And as a father of a couple of daughters, I was then horrified to think that my own daughters might not have the same opportunities I had. And so I recognised as part of my responsibility in this role, and in fact the roles that I've had previously, about making the organisation a fairer organisation to ensure that we have better gender diversity and gender opportunity has been a critical thing. And so that's been a bit of an eye-opener for me, and I hope as I continue as we roll through our 10-year program, that we can continue to drive some really great outcomes for people of all genders. This isn't just for men and women, there are non-binary genders, there are various other things that we also need to ensure have great opportunities and representation.